I'm your host, Rick Watson, and here is...
It's Jessica Liseski back again, Rick. And today's pretty exciting. It's our 25th episode, and who knew? We haven't yet been canceled. So
I'm excited about that. 25 means to me our silver anniversary.
oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. That's
What did you
beautiful.
get me?
Oh, I got you the beauty of my presence. Sorry.
Yeah, I got you candlesticks.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Next time I'll get you like a little nice silver coin.
Awesome. I love it. And so look, we're excited to be here. Thank you for joining. We have a couple of things that we're going to talk about today. We have the incoming president of BigCommerce, Travis Hess, also recovering consultant. So we're excited for that. We have Walmart earnings. We have artificial intelligence failures. And we also have our headline hangover. But before that, we actually have, we're sponsored by VTEX. They're an enterprise digital commerce platform that you should check out. So we were going to start off with our headline hangover. And I think our first story here is with Home Depot's earnings. So let's kick us off here. Home Depot didn't have such a great earnings call. And I think it was sort of no news because the home category over the past year has not been great. Ever since interest rates dropping, no one leaving their homes. Even some of the things that I thought were interesting were, they missed on revenues. They made a huge acquisition to SRS Distribution. They're trying to consolidate like a very fragmented market for these professionals, which means they're adding distribution centers. They're adding more home services. They're adding more products for this segment. Is the home category, does it have a chance of recovering, Jess, before interest rates come down again?
I think it is going to be tough because you also have all of these reports that there is just such a large contingency of people that are sitting on their homes. They don't want to sell their homes because of the interest rates. They can't get into another home. And so all of this wealth is really tied up in the housing market, and people are just waiting for a change in interest rates. So I do think that it's smart. Home Depot continues to diversify. They're going after this pro business. It's becoming a larger portion of their overall revenue. But I do think the consumer landscape's just going to be tough. And we're hearing that in a couple of different aspects of, if you look at like the share and the landscape that Home Depot plays in, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a turnaround. And that's kind of where their guidance was heading them to, right?
Yep. No, that makes sense. And like, so Home Depot not going so well. But I think you have another interesting query coming up next with our old friend, the NRF.
Yeah, our friends at NRF and Shein, which it feels like now NRF's going to become on our bingo card. There was a big story this week. It was first announced and broken by CNBC that Shein was rejected by the NRF. Shein tried to apply. They did not get in. And it's pretty interesting because we're not saying we're journalists here at the Watson Weekend, but we like to do our own research. We're not going to just be pervasively spreading the fake news. But here's kind of what I found. There's been no other reports of people getting rejected by the NRF. I'm not saying that they haven't, but it's at least never been publicized.
So you're saying this is the first rejection ever, Jess?
At least from what's been reported. And I did my fair share of Googling. I mean, I spent at least like an hour on it. So, I mean, pretty much you can call this facts. So the other thing that I wanted to do was like, what would be the process of Shein trying to go through this application and just kind of see kind of what that experience was like. So I just wanted to show something to you guys if you can. So, let's say I'm in the Shein marketing / compliance department because we've already substantiated those live in the same building. I go to NRF membership. I go to retailers. And yes, I want to join this community with thousands of leading retailers. So I click it here and oh no. Yeah. No.
What happened, Jess?
No Can-Do'sville, baby doll. It is not happening. So it just with little whoopsies there. Not so sure that they can get in, and we're gonna see if this this changes the story. But will this legitimize Shein? That's my question.
Look, true facts. It sounds like no one is getting into NRF because he can't navigate the website. That's number one. And so, in the age of digital commerce, this is a little bit embarrassing. Point two, I definitely think they're looking for legitimacy. NRF is the largest retail lobbying arm in the United States, and Shein becoming a member would certainly add to their legitimacy, perhaps to their chance of a U.S. IPO. But now chances are that they're going to get in are slim to none, and
No.
Slim just left town.
Just hit the pond, go across the pond, stick with the London peeps, because I think that's where the action is. So
exactly.
All right. I actually have another story for you, Rick.
Oh, cool.
In the land of companies and pivots, and we know people keep trying to reinvent themselves. We have a story with Klarna. So Klarna, as you guys know, it's a buy now, pay later company. It's actually becoming more and more of a media company. And they actually are starting to perceive themselves more as an entertainment platform. So something that's interesting is it was announced a little bit ago, but that's why we call this the headline hangover. We don't have to be talking about news right when it happens. So earlier this month, there was this announcement that Klarna was partnering with PubMatic to launch more of a commerce media network. So it's going to allow their 150 million shoppers to be reached by advertisers. So it's another way for people to get into more millennial and Gen Z, because that's what they say more of their customer base is. They already have affiliate, search, and influencer marketing. So does this make them a true commerce media network? What do you think, Rick?
I don't know. I mean, I think Klarna has essentially won these buy now, pay later wars. It seems like Affirm is struggling a little bit, and they have become more than just buy now, pay later. They become essentially an affiliate platform where retailers can get traffic from. And to the extent that they become an entertainment company, I would hold off on calling them that until I see them publish like a Roadhouse 3 or something with whoever the next Jake Gyllenhaal is. So
yeah. It's probably going to be Ryan Reynolds. I mean, not the next, but he's
maybe with Tom Cruise, we'll do it.
Oh yeah, I like that. But look, they said their click-through rates, they're 3x higher than the industry average. I think my question is, we talked about this bifurcation and that's happening, and is there enough space for all these different media networks? It'll remain to be seen. So
no, 100%.
All right, what you got for us?
Yeah, next one is things going private, and we will stay silent on the company on the call that may be going private, but Squarespace is the one we're talking about here. For those who were thinking something else, they have just been taken private by private equity firm Permira for $7 billion. You know, the RMW Commerce website is hosted on Squarespace. It's a fine platform, and now it could be used for a lot of things. I think ultimately this is a sign of the times that there are a lot of companies can't survive the public market anymore.
Yep.
And even if they bring in fancy new executives, they might still be taken private. But we're not going to talk about that on the program today.
We are not. It's like Voldemort, he who will not be named. So yeah, I think you're right. It's just a bit of a tough landscape. We've had many different folks like Ben Hogan on talking about where funding is going, and it's just it's a different time in terms of raising capital. And as long as things are tight, I think you're going to see more of this activity happening. So, all right, I've got one more for you, which is there's just a few too many dicks. And this came from Elf Beauty, which ultimately pushed out their campaign. And Rick, you are part of the problem.
I 100% am part of this problem.
Yeah, but look, seriously, this is an issue where we don't have enough diversity in the boardroom, and particularly women. So Deloitte did their global boardroom program, and this survey and study that they found is that there's still less than 1/4 of the world's board seats are held by women. We keep talking about this, not necessarily making a ton of progress. So Elf has pushed out this campaign to really highlight and spotlight what the challenges are, calling to conversation. And we see brands doing this, like Dove does the Real Beauty. So it's kind of interesting to see how Elf is really kind of fighting for this very noble cause. So what do you think?
I think some of this stuff is long overdue. I mean, it's sort of a long line of companies pointing out the obvious elephant in the room. And hopefully it's not the bull elephant, because that would add another dick to the conversation.
Oh, well, there we go. So yes, well agreed. So I think kudos to Elf. And look, they're also crushing it in their sales. So they got some things to substantiate and legs to stand on for sure.
No, definitely.
All right. So that wraps up our headline hangover. Any final words, Rick?
No, look, I'm excited for our guest. And I think you have a couple of words to say about him to tee him up for our audience.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing to have this caliber of guest on the show. We've had some amazing guests in the past. And what I love about the world of e-commerce is it's small, but it's also still lots of room to meet new friends. And I have not had a chance to meet Travis before, but he has such a strong reputation. He's an commerce industry veteran. He's had experience at agencies and consultancies over the past 15 years. He was most recently a managing director at Accenture, leading their D2C commerce offering, their go-to-market strategy, as well as leading their Shopify partnership globally. He's also an award winner. So he was on the 30 most influential in e-commerce list by Signified in 2022. I think that's some pretty hot stuff. And he's also had stints at the stable. He was also the CEO of BVA. So we have one more fun fact about Travis, which we heard that he is a closet Watsonian and actually was just knocking on the door to come on. So I think we need to bring Travis on and welcome him to the show.
Welcome, Travis. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I am. Well, I don't think I'm a closet Watsonian. I've been long-time listener, now first-time caller, and when I first met Rick, like I feel like everybody meets somebody new through Alex Lazoff, who's like the most lovely person, the most positive, lovely, authentic human being in this space, and is like a ferret on a triple espresso with his energy. I don't think he sleeps, but he's clearly caffeinated. But when I first met Rick, and this is a true story, Rick could validate it, Alex, when he was at Yotpo, used to have this kind of secret dinner every year at Shop, and Shop Talk, and you didn't know who was coming. It was, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 people.
It was a secret dinner.
It was a secret dinner. All I knew is that I didn't have to pay for it, and I knew it was going to be fantastic because he was curating it. And as I walked through to the dinner the last time, the first person I see is Rick, and we embrace, as I think a lot of people do with him when you first see him. And
absolutely.
And I was like, listen, I've been a Watsonian forever, and I jokingly said he was having his Pedro Pascal moment, which I think he still is. And
it never stops.
It never stops. I'm a little disappointed my theme song, my walkout song, wasn't played, which is the final countdown, like Job in Arrested Development. Just no knife in my mouth dealing cards. And I couldn't help but notice on the NRF website, I've not been there recently, what a beautiful landing page. That did not represent Javits, which I've been going to for the last 15 years. I wish it was, but I've never seen it look or feel like that. It's usually windy and cold, and before Hudson Yards was built up, pretty barren between Javits and wherever you were walking to catch a cab or eat something.
Or just
but anyway, thank you for having me.
And walk. Yeah. No, thank you for being here.
Of course.
It really is. It's an honor to have you.
First of all, can we be the first to congratulate you publicly on your new role as incoming president at BigCommerce?
Well, thank you all. You all, a lot of people have said many kind words, and I've been
not kinder than us. We are the kindest.
This is the first time on video, so for that, it is definitely heartfelt and meaningful. this is one of the more exciting things, if not the most exciting thing that's happened to me. I have admired the product and strategy for a long time. I don't feel it has the market share it deserves. And for a legacy agency guy, services guy that's been in space for a long time, I have to applaud Brent and others on that leadership team and board that would consider an archetype outside of traditional enterprise software, which is unorthodox and unusual. And to just be in the consideration with obviously other people super talented in the space was flattering. And then to actually get the job is pretty amazing for me.
Yeah.
I think it's the most exciting job for a go-to-market guy like me in commerce today. And then to do it with Tom Armstrong on top of it at the same time and join just an amazing team that's already there, that many of which I've got a rich history with, is pretty special. So.
That's amazing. So congrats on that. Like, we are so excited about you and Tom coming in that we actually, I don't know, the Watson Weekend crew here did a special video in preparation where it's almost like we were looking into the future. Like, what would Travis's first day and week look like at BigCommerce? And so we're going to roll that while you watch here, sort of like Manning cast style.
Just call us Nostradamus, basically.
Yeah.
Look at that hair.
Hello. Nice suit. Hold the thought. Yeah. Shh. Come on, everybody. The play. This is the play. Quarterback. 2 receivers lined up to the left. 1 to the right. There's a flanker lined up to the left, behind the quarterback. The ball, no, he doesn't get the ball. The receiver goes all the way over. Once the quarterback has the ball, he fakes to the left. He fakes to the right. He doesn't fake. It's about fake. He pretends to fake. I don't know where I am. I can't breathe.
I mean,
how close is it going to be? This is like your playbook.
You just need to know.
I think it's remarkable how similar Tom looks like a young Henry Winkler, and you know, and the storied career that guy has had in acting. He's ageless. He's like
timeless.
He really is. He's like Jeff Goldblum, who's probably like 80 years old and still, you know, looks like he's probably
Still
younger than me.
great.
No,
yeah. Well, we
all...
should say it is the dream team coming together. Pretty amazing to see.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we're all looking forward to seeing what you guys do. Like you said, great product, a lot of opportunity, and just excited. So let's dive into.
Yeah, I'm gonna start us off with a fastball here.
Okay.
When is Shop Pay coming to BigCommerce?
I have no idea. I mean, I assume that's somewhat tongue in cheek, but
it totally is.
I mean, I wasn't expecting that one, but you know, you never know.
Let's start more simply. Like, we talk a lot about mid-market and enterprise. How do you think about the mid-market? Like, define mid-market from your point of view.
It's a great question. I think it's changed a little bit as obviously COVID accelerated, you know, revenues online. You've had not the birth of, but certainly the expansion of digitally native vertical brands that have certainly thrown a lot more revenue in digital only. And obviously that's evolved post-COVID as obviously stores opening up and things like that. You could put a number on it. I mean, I think different people define it different ways. GMV is certainly one variable that you could factor in mid-market. I would also argue complexity of whatever it is the requirements are factor in. And I'll give you the alternative view. If people say enterprise, well, enterprise is based on, you know, total revenue size or GMV. I could have a digitally native brand that does hundreds of millions on online revenue that I wouldn't necessarily, in a traditional sense, call enterprise, because their
Right.
catalog, their complexity, their
Straightforward.
omnichannel it's straightforward.
Yeah.
And the reciprocal of that is a smaller revenue brand that may sell through a myriad of different channels, may have really, really complex, complicated requirements, front end and back
Yeah.
end. And I would consider that, from a complexity perspective, enterprise, just to even implement, validate, expand, scale, and things like that. So I agree. I think you need to be deliberate about how you're describing enterprise and mid-market as an organization, but what that is, I think, varies. I think the transparency around why you're qualifying as mid-market or enterprise or SMB, I think, is a helpful mechanism so that everyone's on the same.
Like, I think Yeti's a good example from a brand perspective. Hundreds of billions of dollars, selling online, also distributed. But is it like that complex when you think about the catalog and it's drinkware, it's SKUs, it's straightforward. Yes, there are colors, there's sizes, there's some customization, but I think that's what you're talking about ultimately.
Yeah. Fair.
No, makes sense. Obviously, look, you have a storied career in the agency side. That is a business that has been turned upside down the past 10 years, like from when you started. And what is the role of an agency today? I would love to hear from you. Like, it seems like almost like the agency business model is under attack from some point of view. Like, maintenance contracts are going down. How do agencies respond in this sort of world?
I'm going to answer this two different. Well, let's compartmentalize agencies, and let's separate GSIs and like enterprise, like holdco agencies that some may be more integrated than others, because I think there's a delineation there. Let's just start with a traditional agency in this space, right? Commerce agency. Maybe they're agnostic to platform. Maybe they're focused on one platform, maybe a couple of platforms, whatever it is. Has it changed? Yes. I mean, it's changed because the technology from all of the platform providers has become so advanced. Way more is out of the box. Everything's about speed and agility and delivering things quickly. And by definition, if I deliver something quicker, I'm going to carry less overhead and less cost along the way, which by definition means less money. So the good old days, 10 years ago, right? What are we, 2024? Let's go back even 12 years ago, 2012, where it was really ATG was the cat's ass in the market. These are, tens of millions of dollars. It was a framework. It had incredible capabilities until Oracle bought it and did what they did with it. But as an agency or an SI back then, I mean, it was the gift that kept on giving. You went out, knocked down 2-3 big deals a year. There's going to be a forced upgrade every 18 months. There's be big managed services and DevOps and your hosting and all that type of shit, which is fine. Obviously, with Demandware first, which really disrupt. I mean, Shopify gets a lot of credit, and properly so, in democratizing a lot of this stuff. Demandware was really the first, and I think there's a lot of parallels. Yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels between Demandware and Shopify and Big and others. And I it's so funny because I'm, oftentimes I'm the oldest guy in the room, and I'm remembering all of these things from my younger days of what people used to say about Demandware. And listen, I give Tom shit all the time because I competed against him. On the ATG side against him, and he had obviously a storied career at Demandware, as did so many other people. And then became, the CRO and GM of LiveArea, which was with Lions, the two biggest Demandware shops in the world, even through the acquisition of Salesforce. So I came over to that side and appreciated the magic that Demandware had in market, and what they did more than anyone was made that product cool and acceptable within specific markets and size and brand and manufacturers that lent itself to the revenue share model too, right? It was only, you had to have a certain amount of margin to be able to afford that. And so it attracted a certain type of customer, and they did an amazing job of getting those folks sort of together and excited about it. And that organically spread. Anyway, fast forward, I'm rambling at this point. What's changed is the migration work has dried up, right? It hasn't dried up completely. It's gotten way smaller. So what was once $1 million is now $250,000. I can tell you from running services businesses and agency businesses, even when they were big, that business tends to be lumpy, right? It tends to come in waves. Back in the ATG Oracle days, when those deals were starting, those deals were closed at quarter end because people were negotiating big contracts, and they all start at the same freaking time. And you're trying to scramble around, get team staffed. And there's going to be overruns and change requests and things, all this shit that impacts it in a negative way. And you're trying to kind of align the decks of getting people sequenced. That has all changed with these smaller implementations. And to me, as an agency guy, one of the biggest things we did at BVA, 70% of our revenue is recurring, which is unusual, especially
That
around
is insane. Yeah.
around
Yeah.
Shopify
Yeah.
or Big or
Yeah.
any of these other really nimble platforms. How the hell do you generate 70% of recurring revenues? The reality of it is
Right.
the implementation is just kind of the gateway into the broader relationship. And that broader
Right.
relationship is less about playing defense and reacting as a traditional managed service or DevOps. It's now offense. It's I've got to go optimize revenue. I got to go grow. I've
Mhm.
either got to drive out cost or I got to increase revenue
Yep.
or both. And I've
Right.
got to be able to do that in a measurable and a meaningful way. And I've got to be able to do it at scale, especially through COVID and all the turnover and human capital. And
Right.
we can talk about that too. So you've got to have a methodology, a framework, and approach, and be deliberate about, hey, we are deliberately going to be 70%, 60%, 80% recurring.
Yeah.
What service offerings do we need to create that we can measurably generate value, we can scale, and we can take to market in a way that people understand? And I think that's been the shift. That's on the traditional agency side. And most of the folks that lived off of implementation work, other than
Mhm.
design shops, who are the only ones really equipped to still do that and figure it out because they end up freelancing a bunch of people anyway when they ramp up. Everyone else has got to figure out how to get into this recurring revenue stream. The GSIs, the Accentures, the Deloittes, the Capgems, I mean, pick your poison, the EPAM,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever, there's tons of them. They're all about transformation. And commerce happens to be one part of that, right?
Right.
And the sequencing of which isn't always dictated by the commerce platform provider or the agency or anybody else. It might be I mean, listen, if your OMS is a disaster,
Yeah.
there's no point in replatforming up front until you figure out your order management. I'm just making that up. But I
Yeah.
think the way that we looked at it, at least I looked at it, and a bunch of really talented people looked at it at Accenture, was we're trying to digitally transform global organizations in ways that are going to drive massive efficiency gains, human
Right.
capital reorganization, data strategies, all this other stuff. And commerce is part of that. Sometimes it's the first part of it. Sometimes it's the last. Sometimes it's in the middle. The coordination of those efforts is where the secret sauce is. And those organizations are just, this is what they do in
Right.
their
Yeah.
sleep. They know how to go in and do that stuff. And because it's so big, by definition, it's recurring. And there's a lot of continuity with the people cross-functionally staffed. And that's where you just create these really deep entrenched relationships with organizations that, again, land and expand, and the attach rate for services is just massive.
Yeah.
That most agencies just don't have.
So you made a distinction, which I think is valuable. You said a couple of things, which I'd love to run back by you. If you're an agency and you want recurring revenue, you have to be helping the retailer or brand with acquisition or some kind of conversion enhancement to activate their recurring revenue base. But then my worry is with all these SaaS platforms that are out there, Shopify, Big, whatever name it is, they're going to be like very disappointed working with these big four consultancies because, as you just said, it's not the focus. Fewer people are replatforming. What's the size of a BigCommerce or Shopify project to Accenture? Quite small compared to a Manhattan WMS implementation or a huge front end CMS that might cross multiple brands.
Well, and to your point, if I could add, it's also what Travis was saying. It's not about almost the customer experience anymore. It's about how much can I grow my profitability, and to grow profitability, I've got to get more efficient on whether that's like the back end tech stack. So do they care as much even about the front end experience as they do about how do I shed, the tech debt, my staff, whatever it is that's creating those inefficiencies. And that's where some of the maybe smaller agencies are challenged. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, in its simplest, broadest form, speed kills, right? In a good way. Like agility, organizational agility is kind of, to use a Maslow term, self-actualization for pick a brand.
I didn't know we'd get philosophical on the Watson weekend.
I mean, listen, I mean, I did pay attention in psych a little bit in college, but again, for lack of a better term, at least to attempt to self-actualize yourself, right? I think organizations need agility because you've got to create immersive, frictionless experiences independent of where the transaction takes place with your customers, right? Regardless of channel. And to be able to do that, you've got to be able to experiment. You've got to be able to turn channels on and off. It's got to be about speed. And the old adage says, I can teach you how to run far. I can't teach you how to run fast. You're either fast or you're not. Even I could finish a marathon eventually, and out of breath and in a lot of pain and whining probably the whole way. But what a lot of these SaaS platforms do, what their specialty is they're very agile, very quick, and they're constantly adding more and more features and functions and things that can be deployed very quickly. So I think from an agency perspective, and even I don't want to speak for Accenture, I think yes, this is part of the transformation, certainly, and it could be a super important part. But think about that. If we all agree that the SaaS platforms are going to allow brands to stand up sites quickly, to pivot quickly to different channels and things like that, by definition, that is either going to save money that could be applied to other things that could drive growth or scale or margin, or it could be driving transformation organizationally, start thinking differently, where if I can do this stuff now in 2 weeks versus 3 months, let's start riffing, and even experimenting to fail quickly is not a bad thing. That's the dogma has changed. It's about speed. 10, 12 years ago, it was not about speed. It was about getting it right and understanding all the complexity, and brands and retailers realizing this might take a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you hunker down and you're in.
3-year transformations. That was the narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I love it. And look, if your technology is fast, where does that put pressure? It puts a lot more pressure on people and process. And so I would love to ask you, like, talent, senior level talent in e-commerce, like, it doesn't grow on trees. And so does the average enterprise brand, let's assume their technology is transforming, do they have the people to stay ahead of the technology? And what's your view on that?
I think there's a lot of talent, certainly in the street, and I think a lot of talent cross-functionally. I think the challenge a lot of brands have, more so than service providers, is do they have digital acumen? Are they embracing innovation and things like that? Because to go to a place as a practitioner, regardless of what your functional role is, if that's not interesting and that's not innovative, and you don't feel like you leave your fingers on something or innovate or scale, why would you want to go there or stay there? So I think a lot of times, we would advise organizations, as part of that transformation, human capital is a massive aspect of it. And this isn't just acquiring the right people, it's retaining the right people and training and enabling the right people and making this part of your fabric, your DNA, your culture. Like, this is all about innovation and experimentation. And that's what people want to be, I think, closest to. So those brands and organizations that kind of, represent that culturally and lean into that, I think, have an easier time finding and keeping talent. And you could say the same thing for services providers. Those that won't. I think the talent's there. I think the focus is shifting a little bit. And I think the easiest, centralized theme across all of this is speed. It's agility. Like, everything's got to be, it's fast,
super
man.
fast.
It's super fast. If you can't go fast, you're dead going forward. And I think most agencies have adapted. I think a lot of brands, some more than others, they at least realize they need to get there. The cost and the disruption and everything else like that to get there is obviously the hardest part.
Well, and I also think, depending on the size of the brand or the retailer, it's the alignment on the how, because that's also where there can be friction too, just disagreement or misalignment on the path versus the fact that everybody agrees it needs to move fast, but can't agree on the how and the way to get there. I had a question for you, Travis, on as we get to agencies and we think about these platforms, are you finding that agencies have to become more and more specialized in particular platforms, and therefore they almost become the sales force and the sales team of that respective platform, versus, where you need to have a couple of different portfolios and skill sets within your team?
I mean, listen, this is a complicated answer and I'm not trying to be weird about it. I mean, the easy answer is I've seen agencies go all in monogamously, tether themselves to a platform and have a tremendous amount of success. I mean, let's just name specific ones. Look at Rich Lyons at Demandware, Right. And he was a Magento shop. I mean, he started kind of
Yeah.
Magento. I don't want to
Yeah.
speak for Rich, but really pivoted heavy to Demandware. And they had an amazing run and amazing valuation and exit and things like that. But primarily, I don't know what his percentage of revenue was outside of Demandware. But had an amazing run. So there's a great example. You've had other agencies like the Acuity Group, who sold to Accenture, ironically, back in 2012, 2013.
It seems to be a pattern for you.
Yeah, well, I wasn't at Acuity. I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Acuity Group, but I mean, they leaned heavy in Adobe and certainly Hybris at the time, and you could argue they ran a lot of tool selection. They were agnostic. I think you've got to be deliberate in your approach. If you're going to be agnostic as an agency and not cozy up to a partner platform, right? You've got to be able to generate your own leads and drive value independent of the platform work, which means, to your point, Rick, you've got to have a really strong, robust digital marketing arm. Performance marketing arm. You got to be able to lean in with the ability to do design and UX work or things like that. You should have it anyway. I think, to answer the first question, partners are a invaluable part of a platform's ecosystem for obvious reasons, and for maybe less obvious reasons too. I mean, yes, there is SG&A that you're not having to carry because partners are pushing and influencing your stuff. And I don't know what the percentage of revenue, partner sourced revenue is at Shopify or Big or things like that. But generally speaking, that's usually 40, 50%, sometimes depends. So it's super important. I think what's also
sounds like a big number to me, 40, 50%.
Yeah, even if it was 30%. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, I don't know what the actual is. I haven't looked at it, but I will look at it. I think it's super important. And I think you want to expand that. But part of expanding that is, I think we would all agree, you're not going to be enriched by implementing those platforms at scale. A, because it's lumpy. B, this is only going to get quicker and cheaper realistically. And that's actually a compliment to the Bigs and the Shopifys and the others, that they've been able to deliver out of the box, make it easier. So for agencies, it's like, how do I hitch my wagon to that? How do we go create joint IP together in market that differentiates? How do we go create ongoing value that benefits the brand, the agency, the platform? If you can figure that triangulation out, you're off to the races. And I'm overly simplifying it, but this is never going to be a self-service. We don't have partners that, I mean, I don't think any platform provider wants to be in the services business. It's dilutive to margin. It's hard for all the reasons I laid out. And there's plenty of capable agencies out there that do a really good job. And that's the fun part of this is how do you go win together and create something that's differentiating in market?
Yeah. Look, if you're a brand, one of the hardest decisions you make, I would argue, it's the platforms, it's not like there's platform downtime anymore as a rule. Like, sure. Like, so if you have a replatform or an implementation that's going to fail, a lot of times they're agency failures because the wrong people were on the project, or you got bad advice, or you listened to the wrong agency. I'm not saying like there are obviously bad agencies out there, but there are fewer platforms. There are more agencies. So the likelihood of you picking a bad agency is greater. Just as a rule, if you're an average brand, let's say your SMB mid-market brand, like if you are giving advice to a brand owner, like what is your number one piece of advice in choosing an agency? Like,
I mean, I say this a lot, and I've said it for a long time. I mean, I think cultural fit is probably the most underrated aspect of this, because let's be honest, this is, albeit an arranged marriage, a marriage. And, maybe 10, 12 years ago, that was a year and a half long journey, or a year journey, or a 3-year journey. And now maybe it's only a 6-month journey or a 3-month journey. But the presumption is, to the point I've made exhaustively today, it hopefully turns into a couple of years and things like that. And so a comfort level of that agency understanding where the brand is, right? Vertical, sub-vertical, and most importantly, maturity stage. Yeah, they're let's just use fashion because it's an easy one to unpack. Fast fashion is very different than couture. I mean, they're both fashion, but dramatically different businesses and margin profiles and challenges and things like that. So understanding, do you have sub-vertical expertise that is specific to fast fashion? You're going to have a lot of high SKU turnover. You're going to have inventory level sensitivity and order management, depending on whether you're brick and mortar, you're digitally native. Can you keep up with that? Can your catalog keep up with it? Can you personalize things like that? So I think understanding sub-vertical expertise, and then really understanding what the vision is for that brand, where they are maturity-wise, what's best in class, and how are you going to get them to that next phase and tranche of growth is
Right.
also equally as important. And are you equipped as an agency to be able to do that? Have you done it before? Have you done it in this industry or sub
Yeah.
industry? Have I met the folks that might be either escalation path people or folks that are actually going to be on the project and things like that? And I think that's where, I mean, most of the stuff, it's rare you see projects where one agency is at $1 million and two others are at, 300 grand. Like something's obviously off. So I think maybe there's a miscommunication. Most of the time, they're roughly around the same price, give or take 10, 20%. Is it a West Coast agency and you're an East Coast client? It could be something as simple as that. Like, are you only going to be able to have calls starting at 11 o'clock my time in the morning or vice versa? Yeah, there are weird things like that. But I think references, people referring other people. And I think more importantly, interacting with folks when you're out scoping and things like that we don't scope to find requirements often. I mean, we do, but that's easy. You can do that virtually. We tend to go on site and scope to build that cross-functional rapport and get a vibe.
That's great.
What's really going on here that has to be factored in.
Well, and you have to be able to, as I feel like on the agency side, know the dynamics in that leadership team, know who is calling the shots, making decisions, and how you're going to help nurture those inevitable friction moments that are going to happen. Because that's what ends up delaying those types of implementations or those projects is, again, goes back to lots of opinions in the room. You can't sit on a decision if you're trying to move fast for weeks and weeks of like, what's my checkout flow going to look like, or what's the way we're going to implement this? You can't do that if you're trying to go for speed. And so
that's,
you almost become a therapist, right? Like you try to manage those dynamics.
The old Tony Soprano quote, more is lost from no decision or indecision than bad decision in some capacities. And I think, listen, obviously I'm biased towards big at this point. I would argue almost all of these platforms, and we'll probably get into the wave here in a minute, are capable of delivering good product in some capacity. You're right, Rick. It's, 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, maybe more than 9 times out of 10. It's not the platform per se. It's the way it was architected, implemented, and approached. And that might even be communication challenges, right? Of the team that's extrapolating scope and requirements, knowing that the budget's X and we've overestimated or underestimated, and then you're it's just, that is where the cultural piece, like these are not easy projects, and anybody in services knows, like, this is hard, man. You've got like 5 to, 12 cross-functional people coming in phases with deliverables and exit criteria in collaboration with a business of people that have day jobs. Like, this is magic to make this all go perfect. There's going to be bumps. So when there's bumps, is it a good marriage? Are you guys able to talk through it? Can you escalate? Can you get through it? Or is it a bad one and it ends up, getting burned to the ground? I think that's where the cultural piece is so important. It's a risk mitigation thing more than anything else.
Yeah, I think the relationship piece, that's super good advice. You mentioned about coming on to BigCommerce, and we'd love to transition the conversation there. Look, obviously there are a lot of elephants in the rooms here. You've been a big Shopify supporter for many years, and you will continue to be due to relationships, your opinion of the product, and as far as that's concerned, you have a big task ahead of you. In a world where Shopify is going to continue to be a big player, that's sort of like on one hand of the equation. The other hand, it's like, even if you listen to Toby, the CEO of Shopify, he's like, there's going to be multiple winners. Like, commerce is not a monoculture. I don't care what market you go to. It's not in the US market. It's certainly not in Europe. There's a lot more diversity in the European market than there is in the US market. And so I would almost ask this question like in a different way, which is, where's the white space in the North American market that you are excited about as you look ahead in the next year or so?
I mean, specifically to Big, I think what I like about the strategy, again, they've made a couple of acquisitions. I think the Fido acquisition is absolutely brilliant. I think the Makeswift acquisition is actually super brilliant as well, in the sense that there is I think they're more opinionated, and I don't want to speak for them, but at least from my own opinion and reading a lot of the materials and what's come out, they're becoming more opinionated, what I think is important around the tech approach and the strategy of the product. And I think a lot of that was accurately reflected in the wave. Some of it wasn't as accurately, and I think all the platforms would probably agree. So I think that's super interesting. I think, to Toby's point, and I don't want to quote him, but he's right. Like, there's not going to be one winner in all of this. And let's be honest. I mean, we all follow commerce. We've all been in the space for a while. I mean, everyone's had their day in the sun. I mean, just look to the history to predict the future. I mean, listen, Blue Martini was the cat's ass back in, you know,
It sure
2008, 9, 10, whatever. Cold Fusion even had its day in the sun. ATG did until they got bought. Hybris did until they got bought. I mean, Demandware did before they got bought. I mean, Magento did before they got bought. The problem
even
is
WebSphere kicking it for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, now it's HCL. I mean, Sterling's still a great OMS. I mean, listen, I think all those platforms have been fantastic at their own day and time. I would argue, I don't think Salesforce and Adobe are winning new market share. And that's not disrespect to Salesforce or Adobe. I don't think Salesforce is a commerce company. I think they're a CRM company that occasionally masquerades as a commerce company, and they'll buy something else and masquerade as something else. And I don't mean it disrespectfully. There are people that have bought into that and will stay on that, and it's perfect for their business and good for them. I don't think that's the white space. I think there are a lot of branded manufacturers on the D2C side in particular in North America. Look at the Demandware playbook. I think there are a lot of branded manufacturers, small, mid, and large. Some have retail elements. They masquerade as retailers sometimes and have their own brick and mortar. Some sell other stuff, whatever. I think that is an opportunity to take market share in either better technical vision around composability and things like that may be more future-proofed. I think that needs to be nuanced and mapped to market, and I think market will catch up. I also think B2B still has a ton of long tail, particularly in mid-market B2B, heavy, big industrial SAP stuff. I mean, listen, say what you want about SAP. It is a very capable platform for heavy B2B. We know it's arduous, it's expensive, it's all of those things, but it does what it's intended to do. I don't think that's the B2B market share everyone's going after. Maybe Spryker is in markets, but I think mid-market B2B, I think branded manufacturing, I think there's some niches, MLM, there's a few others. And I think with the Big's pricing model and some of the vision, I think there's a real opportunity to be truly the lowest TCO out there and the best visionary at the same time. And that's nothing against Shopify. Listen, I have a tremendous amount of respect for everybody there. It has been the most enriching on a personal level part of my career. I think Bobby Morrison is fantastic. I think Harley is charismatic. I mean, there are a lot of really talented, good people there and a lot of really good, talented agency partners and ecosystem partners and things like that. But
now you need to kick their ass.
I'm looking forward to competing. Listen, we all play sports or gamble or do whatever. Like, of course, you want to win. And I think there's enough market share for us to win and win meaningfully. And the advantage we have is, you know, we're not battling an $80 billion market cap with very aggressive growth numbers. And I think there's a tremendous amount of upside. I think the product, based on the direction and the quality of it, has a tremendous amount of upside in taking market share. And that is what's so exciting, is to have an opportunity to be part of that is really exciting, quite frankly.
Awesome. This has been great. Any last words for our audience, like for this part of the interview? I feel like we got a lot of great Travisisms. I didn't know that a cat's ass was a compliment before this interview, for the record.
I don't, listen, man, stuff just comes out of my, yeah. I mean, stuff comes out of my mouth sometimes. I don't even.
In college, it was the upper part of a bar. It was like the dance floor, because it was the cat's ass. It's where all the fun stuff actually went down. So.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't love dancing?
Travis.
Yeah. No, who doesn't love dancing?
We're going to see your moves later, so get ready.
My camera will unfortunately be, my Wi-Fi will go down, but thank you for that.
You start buzzing out.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. We would love to have you for a kind of a part 2, whether it's like you're 90 days in or, 6
we're going to give
later.
you a job review in 90 days.
Yeah. Just
we're going to get a little
the
scorecard going.
Whether you're here or not, we're going to give you a scorecard.
Just give me the KPIs, and I'm happy to do. Hopefully I won't get rejected by the NRF in the interim. I feel like are they the Soho House from 10 years ago and there's a wait list, or is it
we're going to just see if Rick does or does not get invited to anything anymore. I'm pretty sure I'm already canceled.
I'm not going to be on stage soon. Put it that way.
No, it's all right though. I mean, look, I think we'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
Regardless, I'll be at Javits next year, hopefully not freezing my rear end off and never checking my coat. For those of you who've never gone, never check the
No,
coat.
don't. Do not.
Just like
It's
whatever.
the biggest rookie mistake.
It is
Yes.
such a rookie mistake. And now that like the neighborhood's been built up a little bit more, it's a little bit easier. 10
There's more
years
to
ago,
do.
that was the coldest walk ever.
It was a
like
trek.
to like,
It was
Broadway
the
to
worst.
catch a cab. Oh my gosh.
Well,
it's
I walked it one time from Times Square, and I was like, this is dumb. Why did I do this?
It will prematurely age you.
Yeah, I think it did. I think it
Just the
did.
wind and everything else is just, it's not good for the skin.
It does wake you up though in the morning. You get ready for those pitches.
Yeah, no, it's great. And then sitting on some curb and eating food from like a food truck or a bad food court. I've got like my Sparrow, and it's taking me back to like my teenage mall days.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more money in my
Julius.
pocket.
Orange Julius. That's the one.
And
you
the
missed
Starbucks
it.
line, you kind of have to, you remember, you just like see, oh, I know. Oh, great to see you, Chris. He's like in the front line, and you're
well, if you're Rick Watson, there's like a velvet rope and like rose petals that get sprinkled in front of him, and he just walks up and gets it. They already know his drink. It's like,
well, they Red Sea parts, and actually he just kind of walks up and get
Rick, here's a little known fact about Rick. He only drinks Sanka, which is weird. He still goes with Sanka for the decaf, and Alex Lasoff definitely not on Sanka, and he's probably too young to realize what Sanka even is.
Definitely he is.
All right.
Cool.
Well, Travis, we'll have you for the dance party, whether your Wi-Fi is working or not. We're gonna see.
Yeah. We're gonna cut to Walmart here for a second. We're actually gonna keep you on. Walmart reported earnings this week, and so we're gonna talk about that for a moment.
Sure.
Yep.
Here, I mean, a couple of the key stats that we're going to talk about are comp store sales were up 3.8%. The company's operating income was more than triple that at 13%. E-commerce growth up 22%. I mean, are we talking about Walmart here? We talking about practice? I mean, come on.
We're talking about practice.
I mean, this is serious stuff.
Let's talk about who's not feeling inflation. It's Walmart.
That's
feeling
part of
the growth. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hard to argue with the omnichannel.
Well, and I think, look, Walmart is being smart about their diversification, right? They've got services, they've got the retail media network, they have the membership growth. So there's lots of different ways that they're actually capitalizing in ways that, like, while Etsy has grown their share of revenue primarily through ads, is a different story with Walmart that actually doing it on top of commerce growth at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it looks to me like a lot of the growth is through Walmart Plus, which seems to be getting more convenient, and Marketplace, which is driving ad and fulfillment revenue.
Yep.
My only question to you guys is, like, how does Walmart Marketplace not become just a carbon copy of Amazon Marketplace and a little bit of a race to the bottom? Like, is there a hope for that, or can they carve out unique space?
What I think Walmart could do a little bit differently than Amazon maybe has a right to win or do is Walmart's not yet gotten into lifestyles and life stages in a meaningful way where Marketplace could complement that. So think about wedding, think about baby. Yes, they have registry, but they're not yet in that space. And I think that they could do that and do that differently than even an Etsy and Amazon, that they can use that marketplace uniquely. To your point, if you look at the seller ecosystem in core categories like consumer electronics or home or even apparel, you're going to kind of see a lot of the same types of brands. So I think what they have to watch out for is, how does it not become a place where you can't pronounce the brand names that are being sold?
Just a string of consonants.
Yeah, like I don't even know how you say half these brands. So in branding 101, wouldn't you guys like want to say, hey, where did you buy this? It's like, I don't know. I mean, I just literally can't even pronounce it. Yeah. So and I'm not being disrespectful, like literally cannot pronounce it or say it or spell it. So I think that's where Walmart and Amazon can be different in the way that they're going to market with the marketplace anyway.
Yeah, I think that's, go ahead, Travis.
I said, you just got to sound it out, Jess. I mean, it's it's hard. I agree with you.
I'm a Southern girl. My tongue doesn't roll like that.
Exactly. No, I mean, Walmart, I think fulfillment has continued to improve. One of the stats that I looked at recently, 4.4 billion packages same day or next day last year. Amazon only had 4 billion. I almost think that Walmart is throwing down the gauntlet to Amazon a little bit. And so we'll see how this battle kind of plays out. So their guidance this year, Walmart is expecting 5% top line growth and operating income growth of 8%. And the analysts on this call were almost like goading the Walmart CEO into saying, like, you're beating earnings, right? Right? I mean, come on. I mean, you're not beating earnings, but like blink twice if you're going to beat earnings. I mean, they resisted saying yes to that question, but they kind of did a little bit.
You're a tough crowd, Rick. I mean, listen, I don't want to be on the dark side of your criticism, although it makes me laugh when it's not targeted towards me. It's darkly amusing. You're just like one of those things. You're like, God, I hope he never talks about me that way and makes fun of me. But it is really wildly amusing when it's about somebody else.
That's
for what
that's
it's worth.
cool. Cool.
Yeah, it's cool. That's cool.
I love it. It's fun for me. I'll promise not to be too harsh in next quarter.
It's all good. Listen, you got to have thick skin in this space, and listen, you got to make fun of yourself. Self-deprecating humor, although down in the South maybe isn't as embraced as it is up north or the Northeast. But
oh no,
yeah,
we feel it.
Yeah,
there is. Bless your heart. You know that one.
That you can get away with saying anything about anyone as long as you say bless your heart afterwards or bless their heart.
Yeah. So. Or all due respect. I used to lead with all due respect for Talladega Nights days, and yeah, and then you can say anything. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. It's your get out of free jail card. So
if the kids are watching, just know you can do that. Say all due respect, and
yeah,
we're bringing it back.
Yeah.
We're getting into AI, Rick.
Yeah, I mean, there's a segment of the program that you've seen if you're a Watsonian, which is called "The Robots Are Winning," and so we're gonna kick this off with as we always do, with a little video. These robots always get me.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
I like the one that tries to open the door. Like, you do the hardest technical problem, which is like the 6th degree of freedom actuator to open the door, and then they like crash through it like you're trying to take down bin Laden or something.
Yeah, it's pretty magical. So what's happening in the AI space, Rick? What's the
AI world? There are a couple of stories that we'll talk about, and I'll be honest, some of these I'm pretty underwhelmed with. Like, sometimes you're talking about like we were promised rocket cars, but we got 140 characters. And sometimes I feel like AI is that way. Sam's Club is using AI to check your receipts. I mean, I don't know if you've ever visited a Sam's Club sometime, but like they make you like put your hands against the wall and like, are you carrying anything in your freaking pockets? And now there's a robot that does that for them. That's checking your receipt. So this is a true story.
Is this not just the walkout technology, a new iteration of it? Maybe not.
Yeah, it's called hands on top technology.
All right. What's your next one?
The next one is Etsy. And look, online marketplaces like eBay and Etsy are counting on AI to supercharge their shopping. Actually, Shopify went this way with Shop Pay. They put a chatbot into the Shop app. I don't know that anyone uses it. So this like Chat GPT personal shopper, it didn't work with Walmart Jet Black. And so now it's going to work with a robot. First of all, it's like 5 times more expensive to hit an ML model than it is to have a normal search engine. And then second, is this person really know much about you and what you're looking for? So all these marketplaces that are, I think, betting their future on AI, there's a lot more they need to do. Etsy, one of the things that they did was actually deploy a machine learning model to predict delivery dates, which is, becoming a more and more, common feature in e-commerce. But if you're a marketplace with millions of items, it's actually quite a difficult problem. And
Very
so
difficult.
that's definitely an AI model. I think that's worth investing in from their side. So those are my AI updates.
You forgot one.
This week. I have
You
one
forgot
more.
one.
Thanks, Jen.
You had one more. And
Yeah.
in our same vein of our friends.
Yeah,
At
and
Wally World.
our friends at Walmart, by and large, they are promising 65% automation in stores by the end of 2026. This is a story that has come in the last year, and essentially, they say it's not going to mean less jobs, but is that possible?
It's one of those things that make you go, not so sure.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. People have to be trained on the robotics. So it's like kind of a win-win.
If to train the robots. Hopefully it's not one of the robots in the opening of our segment.
I'm just waiting to see those guys stock the shelves and then Wreck-It Ralph style the ketchup line. And it's like everywhere. So
pour milk on the shoppers.
Yeah. Start like taking oat milk and just squeezing it from their new brand.
That's good. So anyway, that's our AI segment. So thank you for sticking with me on this. Coming into Travis, we're going to let you have the last word in this program. We were really excited, and you were a great sport. Little did everyone know, we like you so much. We were going to have you on even without the big fancy job. We talked about doing this 2 months ago. So we love you here, Travis. Come back anytime you want. And thank you so much for being a good sport and being on.
Yes, thank you so much.
No, thank you both for having me. And I am a diehard Watsonian. I still am. That's not going to change. And like I said, I've been a loyal watcher and reader of you, Rick, for a while, and just now meeting you. And I'm also, we should throw out a shout out to Nick Kaplan, a big Nick Kaplan fan, former client, great guy. No Kaplan's Corner this week, I assume, unless that's coming up next.
Not this week. Sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah. Nick's philosophies can only go, we can only take them in doses because it's just too much knowledge getting dropped at one time.
He makes me feel safe, which is nice.
He does.
You know, not everybody does, but he does. And
Nick is an amazing person, like
he
super calming. So yeah,
he is
pretty good.
Oh, he's on. There he is. Oh, maybe it was somebody else. I couldn't tell him the audience.
No, he's always.
Thank you guys for having me. He's always.
Thank you so much.
He's omnipresent, of course.
Yes, he is. All right, go ahead, Rick.
No, go ahead. No, so thank you.
I was going to say, I mean, thank you so much. And we're super excited again to have you. We will have you back, and hope you guys all have a great weekend. Enjoy it.
All right. We're going out on the dance party. So thank you for being here.
Going to 25 or 25th.